Okay. Thank you guys, everybody tonight for joining the call. Embrace the pain, enhance the gain. As I was mentioning just a few minutes ago before we started the recording, this is a very personal skill set that's really affected me in my life and a few of my clients as well. And I'll tell the personal story, what happened in just a few slides. But this one for me is pretty personal, and I'm hoping that there's a degree of impact for the folks that are on the call or anybody online that might be watching this as well. Okay. All right, and it is. All right, so of course the disclaimer, this information shared here is for educational and informational purposes only and solely as a self-help tool for you to use on your own. I am not providing medical, psychological, or nutritional therapy or advice. You should not use this information to diagnose or treat any health problems or illnesses without consulting your own medical practitioner. Always seek advice from your own medical practitioner and or a mental health provider about your specific health situation. For my full disclaimer, please go to moreplantsbetterhealth.com. So just a little bit about me. Again, my name is Mike Thomas. I am a board certified health coach as of last year. I'm also board certified in lifestyle medicine. I'm a registered pharmacist. There's a rumor out there that I like to dance. I put the little dancing guy there. My email address, my website is moreplantsbetterhealth.com, as I mentioned prior, and my contact information is also on the slide, mike@wlscoaching.net. If you're watching this online and you like the video, it resonates with you, feel free to like the video, actually like it. And then feel free to subscribe as well. We'd love that to get more subscribers so we're making more of an impact. Okay, so the first thing I have for the folks that are on the call is just a question. So I've been a coach for almost 5 years. I think October, I got my very first client 5 years ago this October. So I've been a client for about 5 years, and the main reason that they come to me for coaching is they want change. They want to grow, right? They want to improve their lives, right? So again, the skill set that I'm going to share with you today, which just became blaringly obvious to me in my own personal life, has a significant advantage to, in fact, do that, right? To get better, to improve your life, and to grow. So why do people grow? So with growth, there's transformation, and it's basically, growth 101 is you're going from where you are now to where you want to be, right? So just kind of think about it in that capacity. Many people would come to me and say, hey, Mike, I want to incorporate more plants in my life because I want to lose weight, or I want to lower my cholesterol, or my high blood pressure is elevated, or any number of things. They want to transform, they want to grow, right? So here's some examples, and this may seem a little bit monotonous, but there's a purpose here. The first one is a 61-year-old client would like to build a routine of consistency walking 4 times a week, right? That's something that person is not doing now, but let's say in the next several months, that's just something that they're doing, and they have a habit and things are going really well for them. Another example is a 57-year-old client would like to consistently fuel his body with whole food, plant-based via planning and preparation on a weekly basis, right? That's another example of somebody that's not doing that now, but they want to start doing that on a consistent basis. Third example of growth, a 42-year-old client would like to exemplify courage and have a difficult but necessary conversation with someone that she loves, right? So that's another example of growing with courage. A 47-year-old client would like to put together a plan to save for retirement and then execute that plan, right? Another example of growth. And the last one I have is a 31-year-old client would like to get to bed by 10 p.m. most evenings instead of scrolling on social media until 11:30 at night to midnight, right? So those are just some examples, right? So the introduction is E.P.E.G, E.P.E.G, which is basically embracing pain to enhance gain. Okay, so bear with me here, stay with me here. So this is a skill of actually embracing the pain, right? This skill you can use to help you grow. It's called E.P.E.G, embrace pain enhance gain.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is not easy. This is not fun. This is actually hard, but that's actually the point, right? It's important that you recognize that. That's the point. So thinking about your own ability to embrace pain, or even quite frankly, be aware of that pain that you're avoiding, think about how good you are at that skill, right? So somebody does not have their phone on mute, or their if I get everybody to mute, I'm getting some background noise here.
Mix and match fish. So it'll be four chickens.
Which is closest one back.
What?
Try that there. Sorry about that, guys. It's a little bit better. Okay. So here's my background story. I think probably everybody on this call knows that I've been coaching for about 5 years, but about 4 or 5 months ago, I basically said, okay, I'm really going to start to grow my company, right? I'm really going to be in a place where I'm kind of getting out there. I'm going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to be doing more social media. I'm going to learn more about technology. And I sometimes can get pretty personal with my clients, and I would share with them, hey, this is kind of what's going on. This is where I'm challenged, and there was fear and there's anxiety and all that stuff. And one of the things that I'm doing, I'm very excited about, is I'm putting together a program, actually doing it currently, and it's called More Plants, Less Weight. It's a 12-week group coaching program, and it's going to be available for the beta version in February. So I'm going to go through several months of putting this together in the platform of Practice Better. So I got to learn about Practice Better. I got to learn about technology, and I'm going through this anxiety and this stress of what it is that I'm going to try to do here. And it's pretty scary for me, right? So I'm reading this book, The Plant-Based Journey, for the 3rd time. I've read it, 3 or 4 years ago, and I read it like last year, but I'm going through this book now with a fine-tooth comb, because this is an amazing book with logistics, mindset, movement. There's so many things about this book that helps with converting to a plant-based lifestyle. And so I'm going to basically go through this thing and just figure out what it is that she's saying and how can I try to incorporate as much of those concepts into my program. And then I got to page 183, which just absolutely blew me away, right? She's talking about her own personal journey. So this happened about 20 years ago, and how she struggled and cycled with her own challenges of losing weight. And about 20 years ago, when she was working through like mindful meditation and really being mindful and being aware, this aha moment really hit her hard. And it, quite frankly, when she said it, it hit me as well. On page 183, she says, I made 2 new intentions, right? So think about that client that comes to see me. The first one is, I'm going to start eating better. So that client that says, hey, I know that plants and fruits and vegetables are the way to go, Mike, and I really want to start eating better. So that's the intention. But the second thing is what really struck me. Secondly, she said, I want to experience the discomfort of fear without following through on the urge to escape it. She says, I'd never thought of that before, yet I found the only way around the problem was to go right through the middle of it by practicing mindfulness meditation, right? So being really, truly aware and sitting in that discomfort. And quite frankly, that's the term that I've been using as I've been talking to my clients and thinking about it myself. I've just changed it to embrace pain, enhance gain, because it's a little more catchy. But just thinking about that, what's going on between the ears, what's going on in the mind, what's going on in the brain, as you're making conscious choices and decisions. And then I thought about, again, my own company, my challenges. And the challenges that I'm experiencing are the distractions that I'm allowing to get in, the excuses that I'm making, not feeling like putting in the work, the fear of technology, and I've shared that with many of you, getting off track and wondering if it's worth my effort, challenges of not having enough time, challenges of feeling self-doubt. Can I really do this, right? So those are all, just being honest with you guys, those are all thoughts that I've had several times over the course of the last few months. So here's the thing. Many of my clients are experiencing these same challenges with plant-based eating, with movement or what have you all the time, right? And I'm leveraging, as well as some of my clients are leveraging this skill set of just sitting in the discomfort to help them process through and actually grow versus shying away from that, right? So I call the negative feelings pain, So just some examples that we feel are fear, pain, laziness, pain, self-doubt, again, pain, not feeling like it, I just didn't feel like it, pain, anxiety, and frustration, more pain, right? So as humans, all living creatures, we do two things. We go towards pleasure and we do not like and we avoid pain. And that's a good thing. And that's, I mean, we all need to have pain in our lives. That's why we don't burn our hand on the stove, right? But in this case, I'm talking about the pain of fear and laziness and self-doubt and anxiety and uncertainty, right? So it's very natural for us to feel this way. There's no judgment there. We do not like the feeling of pain and there's no judgment. This is what we all do as animals. So in the example I shared with you on the third or the fourth slide, a 57-year-old client would like to consistently fuel his body with whole food, plant-based via planning, preparation each week, right? So my question for you guys on the call is, think about that 57-year-old client and what he wants to do this consistently, fueling his body with whole food, plant-based. Doesn't mean he has to be perfect, but he wants to be significantly better at doing this whole food, plant-based eating and preparing each week, right? So what do you think in his world, possible pain that could come up in the process of converting to this on a consistent basis? Share with everybody what some of the things that this person could be feeling pain-wise.
Are we allowed to say it?
Yes, please.
Like laziness to prepare the meals.
Okay, yeah. So laziness. What else comes to mind?
You're being afraid to not do it right or get
Yeah.
the recipes wrong or
Yeah, fear,
Yeah.
right? Absolutely.
Lots of new foods to deal with, lots of new challenges as far as what to eat.
Yeah, so maybe the feeling is being overwhelmed.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah. So laziness, fear, overwhelm. Anything else come to mind?
They might feel shame that they've allowed themselves to get
Yeah. Absolutely.
unfit or
There you go.
whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. So shame. Okay. Anything else come to mind?
They don't want to burden other people with their
Yeah.
food choices.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are great examples. So I have laziness, fear, overwhelm, shame, and then I put fear for that last one just because they don't want to upset or burden anybody else. So my second question for you guys are, and let's just use one. Let's just say fear, right? They're afraid overall, afraid that they're going to fail. They're afraid that they're going to upset people, whatever it is. What are things that that person can do to avoid that pain and just work to cope through that pain? In other words, just avoid it altogether. What do you think makes sense?
I think of the Nike phrase, just do it. I mean, you can think about it, but then you just do it.
Okay. So this individual could, instead of feeling that pain, they can just do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as easy as it sounds, certainly, but rather than let yourself dwell there too long,
Sure.
just get up and say, okay, I'm just going to do it. Maybe
Gotcha.
modified, but I'm going to do it.
Gotcha. Okay. What about this person that's overwhelmed, right? So they're very overwhelmed. They're feeling that feeling of overwhelm. What can they do to avoid that?
Smaller pieces, smaller parts.
Okay, so they could break it down, right? Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Very good. All right. So instead of avoiding the pain, what if the person, just like Lanny says in her book, what if this individual could get better at the skill of embracing the pain, right? So in her words, experiencing the discomfort of fear without following through on the urge to escape it, right? Okay, so just kind of let that sit in for just a minute. We're not asking this person to be sadistic, but we're asking this person to to be aware of and feel the pain. So think about ourselves, right? Think about yourself as you were pursuing more plants and the challenges that you had and the distractions that you took on because you didn't want to deal with some of those things and you really struggled through that, right? Instead of just going through and being aware without judgment of that pain and just experiencing that, your skill set was a 4 out of 10. But if you worked on that skill set and you said, you know what, I'm not going to be a 10 out of 10 in experiencing this pain or embracing this pain, I'm going to go just try to be a 6 out of 10. Think about the possibilities that could happen in your life because you just get a little bit better with this. All right. So can you guys hear me okay?
Now, yeah.
Okay. So I just got a message that the internet connection's not so great. So
Yeah, it was cutting out for a hot second, but we can hear you better now.
okay. So there's discomfort and this naturally comes with growth, right? So there we are in the middle before we try to enter any new program like a workout program or because we've never worked out before, or we want to pursue more plants in our life or whatever it is, anything we're going to do to grow. This slide just tells you that when you go to that stretch zone, that green zone, that discomfort, that pain automatically comes with that, right? Sometimes I say to my clients, and it's very respectful, that sometimes they don't necessarily do what it is that they said they were going to do because they quote unquote didn't feel like it. And the expectation is that they're thinking that they're going to feel like it and therefore they're going to do it. When in reality is a lot of times we do things that we don't feel like doing, but we need to do them. When we get up in the morning and we turn off the alarm and we go to work is a good example. Many times we don't necessarily feel like that, right? So that's where we grow in that stretch zone. So where to start? The first place to start is building awareness. We need to become more aware of where it is that we're avoiding the pain. Many times we react subconsciously to these negative thoughts and feelings, and we have done this for many, many years. Many times throughout the day, we're not even aware that this avoidance of pain is even happening because it comes so naturally, because we've been doing it forever and a day, and we naturally want to stay away from pain anyway. Building awareness is critical. When you know, then you have an opportunity to make a change, right? So share with everybody here, what are just some things that you can do to help build awareness in your life? What comes to mind?
Maybe take a pause before you do something.
Okay. So take a pause and just sit there for just a minute. Okay. And just think, contemplate, right? Okay. What else?
Think about maybe that it's just going to be a minute or 2 or 3 to get through this.
Yeah, but the question is, how are you, just read the slide here. What are ways that we can build awareness? What comes to mind?
Just feeling the pain, see where it's coming from. Is it really pain? Is it really physical? Is
Okay.
it emotional? Is it laziness? I mean, maybe any of those things that you said. Which one is that, or does it matter?
Okay, so really noticing it, being intentional about noticing it right off the bat, right? So I've got 2. I've got noticing it, and I've got taking a pause. Does anybody else have any idea, if I say to you, I really want you to build your sense of self-awareness, what it is that you could do to help you build your sense of self-awareness?
How about talk to others?
Okay,
Like,
tell me about that.
When I first started, Mike, John, and Rose, it had me, talking to them saying, how do you do this? What do you eat? What do you buy? How, and so being aware, talking to other people and have them say, oh yeah, I felt the same way in the beginning too, helps you be more aware that you're not the only person that's going through this.
There we go. Love it. How about one more?
I think mine is just
piggybacking on the last person, it was to verbalize it, to
you
get it
go.
out of your head and to
Yeah.
actually put words to it to see if that feels right. Nope, that's not it. It's
Yeah.
it's
Love it.
this.
Love it. So I put some on the slide here. Let's see if I can do this here. First one is we said this one, just noticing and being intentional. I think Bev said that one. I put journaling. Sometimes I get clients that will say, yeah, I really want to journal, or I want to document it because that's going to bring that awareness to myself. Reflecting, just thinking maybe at the end of the day, how did I do in such and such, whatever that is, just to build that awareness. And then just another one is mindful meditation, just 5 to 10 minutes a day, listening to your body, just thinking about your thoughts, trying to focusing on your breath. That's going to strengthen the muscle of just focus in general, right? So again, we need to build awareness so we become more aware that some of these thoughts are happening that are just steering us away from the actual negative, the actual behavior we want to do. So this is by Dr. Viktor Frankl. I don't know if you know who he is, but it's a POW from World War II. And he says, between the stimulus and the response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Okay, so this is for me, this is a very powerful quote, because this is the last sentence there. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. There's so much truth in that statement, but you have to be aware, and your awareness helps you to build space between what happens in your life and the response that you make for that, right? And the response that I'm asking you to consider is to sit in that space and experience that pain so you can go through that and you can grow through that. So just to reference, there's actually a thing called a 90-second rule, right? So Dr. Jill Bolt Taylor is a neuroscientist. She suggests that the initial surge of emotion triggered by a particular event, it could be something that was, upsetting. I got a call that my son just got in a fender bender. Everybody's okay, but now that's going to cost me money. So I start thinking and ruminating, and I'm getting upset about it. And the first thing I want to do is I want to punch the wall, or I want to grab something and I want to eat it because it's going to make me feel better, right? So that's trying to just share with you some of the pain that we're all kind of going through, right? So she suggests that the initial surge of emotion triggered by that particular event or thought lasts for about 90 seconds, that initial surge. However, she emphasized that continuation and intensification of emotions beyond this initial period are often fueled by our mental narratives, our memories, and our thought patterns. Our tendency to ruminate or hold on to emotions can prolong the duration and affect our well-being for minutes, for hours, for days, for years, right? That's what we choose and we decide to focus on. She states that our perspective aligns with research and her perspective aligns with research and neuroscience, which suggests that physiological responses to emotional triggers typically last a relatively short period of time. However, the cognitive and psychological aspects of emotion, including interpretations, beliefs, subsequent thoughts, and can significantly influence how long we experience and engage in those emotions. So the bottom line is, when you have that thought, I'm upset and I want to grab X and put it in my mouth because I will feel better, which is probably all of us feel that from time to time, that actual thought. If we just sit in that for 90 seconds, the chances are in about 1.5 to 2 minutes later, we're going to be in a better place emotionally and be able to make a better, more conscious decision for our health, right? Because this is kind of abstract. This is kind of a different thought. I wanted you guys to meet Gail. Okay, so that's Gail. Gail is 61 years old. She loves to bike and she loves to swim. She's actually a very fit 61-year-old person. Unfortunately, her mom is 86 and just fell this last week and broke her hip 2 weeks ago, right? So Gail's goal, the 61-year-old's goal, is to start and stick to a consistent weight training regimen. Her mom's broken hip last surgery sets up the urgency for her to do these weight-bearing exercises, right? So her weight training, her things that she wants to do is basically some push-ups, some planks, some curls with some dumbbells and some dips for 30 minutes, 3 times a week. Pretty straightforward. But unfortunately, she has a number of challenges, right? Number one, she did some weight training in college, but that was 40 years ago. So her brain and her body and her nerves and her body have basically been working differently, i.e. they really haven't done this on a consistent basis for over 40 years. Number two, in the past 2 years, Gail has started lifting weights several times, and each time she has lasted only a few weeks. So now she, not only does she need to do this for her body, but she also lacks confidence. Number three, Gail doesn't even like weight training. She knows she needs to do it and she wants to do it because of that. Weight training is one of the things that is the number one thing that you can do to strengthen your bones, by the way. I should have said that up first. So she knows this is really important for her to do this for 30 minutes, 3 times a week. But she doesn't even like to do it, so she lacks the desire. And her fourth challenge is her daughter, Abby, just had a baby, and she'd much rather spend time babysitting her new granddaughter, right? So she's got the challenge with distraction and time. And the bottom of the slide, if you think about what her challenges are, how many of us have some of these challenges when we try something new? We haven't done it before. We're not confident about it. We maybe don't even really want to do it. We easily are distracted and we struggle with time, right? So because her mom broke her hip, she says, well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, right? So this is what she does. She wants to do this. She wants to work out with weights 3 times a week. And in week 1, she gets it 3 times. In week 2, 2 times. In week 3, 2 times. In week 4, 1 time. In week 5, 0. Week 6, 2. Week 7, 1, and week 8, 0. So in the entire month, it's the second month, she only works out 3 times. So her motivation is waning, and her E.P.E.G score, E.P.E.G, embrace the pain, enhance the gain, is a 3 out of 10. And this is a very common scenario that we all feel, right? All right. At the end of, she's basically ready to quit now. She's frustrated and she's ready to quit. At the end of week 8, just prior to giving up, she just happens to read Lanny's book, The Plant-Based Journey, and reads about E.P.E.G, sit in the discomfort, and how we need to embrace our discomfort to help us make more healthy choices. Instead, she decides not to quit and try the E.P.E.G experiment. She decided, and that's bolded on purpose, that she'd like to give it 4 more weeks of her doing the weight training, and she's making a decision regardless of how she feels, regardless of what's on Netflix, and regardless of her energy level. So many times in the next 4 weeks, 12 workouts, Gail does not really feel like doing it, right? She also hears about the 90-second rule, and it takes these 90 seconds for feelings to subside. When it's time to work out and she didn't feel like it, she decided to embrace the pain and enhance the gain as an experiment. She noticed that about 2 minutes later, she felt a little bit better, good enough to at least get started on her workout. Give it some time. So Gail decided to take those moments to grow her E.P.E.G skill. She takes the opportunity to feel the discomfort without judgment, that's important, and then just make a conscious choice to move forward. Gail decides to keep a journal for the next 4 weeks and write it down upon awakening on the days that she's doing weight training. This will help her to build awareness of what's going on with her thoughts. And here are her results. So week 9, she works out 3 times. Week 10, she works out 2 times. Week 11, 3 times. And week 12, 2 times. Her execution is much better. Her E.P.E.G score has now risen to a 6 out of 10. She has gotten better at the skill of embracing the pain. And over time, the weight training doesn't require nearly as much effort because it starts to become habitual, rewiring, which was one of her first challenges. So again, Gail's story is just one of many examples where E.P.E.G can be improved or can be used and improved. Embrace the pain, enhance the gain. So what are some examples of things that we can do in our lives where we can exhibit the E.P.E.G skills that we could be enhanced? So this just gives some examples of things that we could potentially do to push ourselves to be better and in growing by experiencing that pain. What comes to mind?
Well, for me, a month is too much. I've got to think more in terms of a week or 2
Okay.
weeks.
Okay.
And just, okay, within the week, 2-3 days out of the week versus you do it, add it up every week and then it goes to a month. But I can't look at a whole month. That's just too much.
Okay, so if you're going to do something as an experiment for a week, what's something you would maybe try as an experiment to see if you can do this particular behavior to exhibit the E.P.E.G skill? What's the thing that you're going to try to do?
Make sure I get to the gym.
Okay, yeah. So and then that would be 2 or 3 times that week, you think, or?
Yeah, ideally every other day. That's the ultimate goal. But
Awesome.
that ends up adding up to 2 or 3 times a week. So some days it may
Yeah.
not be every other day. Some days it may actually be 2 days in a row.
Love it.
And then, you know,
Okay. So for you, one of those things would be getting to the gym every other day on average. What's something else that we can think about that would be something we can stretch ourselves to try to leverage that skill set of embracing the pain?
I actually have to schedule it on my calendar for the week.
Okay. Scheduling on the calendar. Perfect. All right. What's something else we can do to try to help and improve ourselves so we're exhibiting the embrace the pain, enhance the gain mentality?
I
Well,
also,
I'm
Oh.
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to also say, having an accountability partner or someone that is going to workout partner, because you're more likely to go if you're meeting someone there.
Got it. Very cool. Very cool.
Well,
Okay.
and along
Cool.
the same lines of what I had said earlier, break into smaller times. For me, just that day, whatever day it is just stepping out of the comfort zone. Not in a big way, just stepping out in a comfort zone of the comfort zone just by getting there or whatever.
Yeah.
And then if I don't do anything once I get there, which I always do something once I get there, but okay, nothing else, I'm just going to drive over there and see what's going on.
Yeah. Just get
Yeah, I
started.
mean, yeah, just step out of the comfort zone just a little bit, not huge. I mean, huge is too impossible sometimes.
Excellent. Excellent. So I want to share with you guys what this is not about, because it can be a little bit confusing. Again, it's the concept is embracing the pain, sitting in that discomfort, and enhancing the gain. So this is not about being perfect. Okay, this is impossible. This is an impossible goal, and therefore it's not the goal. The goal is growth, as I talked about in the very first slide. The goal is progress, right? It can be a slippery slope. So this is not about being perfect. This is not about being sadistic, right? Much of this pain is mental and physical. There is a balance there, but because growth is desired, naturally, pain follows. This is not about beating yourself up. This is one I struggle with, right? I can go through the process of saying, I'm going to embrace the pain, and then I don't embrace the pain, and then I have the self-critical thoughts, etc. So again, mindfully being aware of what is happening without judgment. And this is when you actually learn. That's incredibly important to understand. So this is not about perfectionism, beating yourself up, etc. This is also not for everyone. We all have choices and we all get to live with them, right? So that's important to know too. This isn't me saying, okay, everybody has to do this. People have free will. And if this is something you're interested in to potentially help you and support you to grow, the concept of embracing the pain, that's a choice, right? So this is from Jim Rohn, who's a big time self-help guru from the 70s and the 80s. There are 2 pains that we all have in life, the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. The pain of discipline weighs ounces, the pain of regret weighs tons. And then from Tony Robbins, it's in the moment of decision that your destiny is shaped, right? So I've talked to people who have quit smoking cigarettes, and I just said, you know, how did you do it? And a lot of times they don't know. They just say, I just decided it was time. So it's important to recognize the power that we have with decision in the process of making change. So again, this skill set, embracing pain to help you and enhance the gain in your life, is just like any skill set. It can be learned, like playing the piano, a learned skill. Speaking in public, a learned skill. Shooting baskets, a learned skill. These are all skills that with intention, focus, awareness, and effort, they can be improved, right? So lastly, I've got a short story, and then I'm going to pass it off to a couple of folks that are going to share with us on the call. So the story I've got for you is Marcus and the butterfly, Bella the butterfly, right? So this is going to take me just a couple minutes. So just Listen in here. Once upon a time in a small town of Meadowville, there lived a curious 9-year-old boy named Marcus. Marcus had a soft spot for all creatures, but none fascinated him as much as the beautiful and mysterious butterflies. One day, while wandering through the lush green meadows, he found a small, shimmering cocoon hanging delicately from a leaf. This was not just any cocoon, it was Bella's cocoon, waiting for the perfect moment to hatch. For days, Marcus visited the cocoon, watching it with anticipation, wondering when the beautiful Bella, the butterfly, would emerge. His mother, a kind and wise woman, always accompanied him, sharing his fascination and teaching him the importance of patience and resilience. One sunny afternoon, Marcus noticed a tiny crack on the cocoon's surface. Excited, he ran home and called to his mother, "Mom, Bella's cocoon is starting to crack. Should we help her out?" he asked with his eyes wide with worry and anticipation. His mother shook her head with a soft smile on her face and said, "No, Marcus, Bella must do this on her own. This struggle, my dear child, is necessary for her. As she pushes through the cocoon, the fluid is forced out of her body and into her wings. Without this struggle, she won't be able to fly." Marcus looked puzzled. "But it's so tough for her, Mom." "Yes, Marcus, it is," his mother replied gently. "But remember, sometimes struggles are exactly what we need in our life. If we went through life without any obstacles, we would not be as strong as we could have been. And the same is true for Bella." Trusting his mother's wisdom, Marcus watched Bella slowly and painstakingly push her way out of the cocoon over the next few hours. It was a struggle that seemed to last forever, and there were moments when Marcus felt a strong urge to help, but he remembered his mother's words and held back. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Bella emerged from the cocoon, her body tired, but her wings were stunningly beautiful, shimmering in the sunlight. Bella rested for a while, her wings slowly filled with life. Then, with a flutter that sent Marcus' heart soaring, Bella took her first flight. Marcus watched in awe as Bella fluttered her wings, soaring higher and higher into the brilliant blue sky. His heart filled with joy and admiration in the tiny creature that had just struggled so hard to reach this moment. Turning to his mother, he said, "Now I understand, Mom. The struggle was just not about Bella breaking free. The struggle was not just about Bella breaking free from the cocoon. It was about preparing her for this journey and giving her strength to fly." His mother smiled and nodded, ruffling his hair. "Yes, Marcus, and it's the same with us. Life's challenges are not there to break us, but to make us stronger, to prepare us for our journey." From that day forward, Marcus was never the same. He understood the value of struggle and challenges, and like Bella, he was ready to face whatever came his way, understanding these were things that would give him the strength to soar. So hopefully you guys heard that. My computer keeps telling me internet is off here. So I love the story because it talks about the actual real life thing that if you help a butterfly get out of its cocoon, it's literally going to die. It needs to go through that struggle itself specifically. So I've got a couple of folks on the call that I've asked to share a little bit about their own personal story of embracing the pain, enhancing the gain. And if you could maybe just kick it off, both of them are named Lisa. So one of the Lisas could maybe just start us out and tell us a little bit about your story and how you're having some breakthroughs through this process.
Mike, we didn't hear what you said.
You didn't hear what I said? What do you mean?
You asked to speak first?
Yeah. Either one of you can maybe just go first and just tell us a little bit about your story and this concept and how it's affected you or helped you.
Okay, I'll go first. About 3 weeks ago, we were in a coaching session and you coached me on this concept. And I actually went in and read, and I've got my book open. I've got that that you've been talking about. I don't know if you can see it. Oh, do I not have my video on? Yeah, I do. Okay. And I actually highlighted the experience, the discomfort of fear without following through on the urge to escape. and so I'd been thinking about that. And I had a job interview and I felt like I did a terrible job. I didn't interview well. I wasn't myself. And so the day after, I had this huge anxiety, and it was like right in my gut. It was just this knot in my gut. And so in the morning, I was pacing back and forth, and I thought, I'll just go and get a Starbucks and a double chocolate brownie, and I am going to feel great. And so then I was like, oh, Mike just coached me on sitting with the discomfort. And I'm like, and this is anxiety, so that's not going to work. But then my brain went to, you know what, I could really go just get a muffin. I could get a muffin at Grab a Java. And then I was like, no, that's not it. And then I was like, I can go and get a horseshoe with cheese and fries and all this stuff. And again, I went back to just sitting with the discomfort. And so then eventually I did just eat a warm bowl of. So that was a major accomplishment for me, because there have been times when I might have eaten all that stuff in one day to get just over that anxiety, which it never replaces that. And the other thing that Lanny says in that book is I became willing to become aware of rising thoughts, the emotions that followed, and the response patterns that became my practice. So my practice, when I faced with anxiety, would be to eat something that wasn't healthy for me. I wasn't even hungry. It was just, I had that anxiety. So that's my story.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. What I found interesting on our call the following week, when you were like, Mike, you're going to believe what happened. Which, by the way, how did the interview end up going? What ended up happening on the interview?
Oh, I got the job.
Okay, good. So, well, that's good news. I think one of the things that was really cool was you kept, like, you just gave us like 3 things that I can do this. There were so many things you were listing off, and then you realized how your sense of awareness had really came to be, where you were recognizing all these things that you were thinking. It was just, and it may be because you didn't stomp it off right away by going to Starbucks, and that's why it was happening. But the reality is your sense of awareness was really enhanced through this process. And then to take that moment and make a more healthy, conscious choice in that process, right? I think that's just such a great example of where you're kind of feeling that pain or that anxiety, having that awareness, and then just sitting in it for a while and being in a place where you can then a minute, 2, 3, 5 minutes later, being in a place where you can make a more conscious, better, healthier choice for yourself. But that's great. Anybody have any questions for this Lisa about the situation or what have you before we go to the other Lisa? Pretty good? Okay.
I couldn't hear what you were asking. It's frozen.
I apologize.
That's okay.
All right. Lisa S.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Can hear you great.
Am I there? I'm just, I don't know. I'm grateful to be a part of the group. It's interesting how similar our experiences are, but mine is kind of a lower level example. Mike and I had been, again, talking about this discomfort, and though I had read the book, I had completely kind of glossed over that the section where she makes the 2 sets of 2 intentions. And if you go back and look at it, it's just powerful. It's just incredibly powerful. But we had talked about bigger things like starting exercise programs and eating and forming habits and being mindful. And I was at work a day or 2 after our meeting, and I was trying, I'd been told to like sit with discomfort. And so an email came into my inbox, and it was someone pretty high up in where I work, and they asked a question, and I had the response, and it wasn't going to be one that they wanted to hear. And so I'm sitting there thinking, I don't really want to do this. And then they're going to ask me to explain myself, and I'm going to have to explain. And it just was kind of a negative spiral. And instinctively said, you know what, I'll do this later. I don't have to do this right now. I'll put it off for a little bit. And, you know, oh, I need something to chew immediately. I need something to chew. And where could I get something to chew? I work around a number of places. I know that Becky up front has a candy dish. That's an easy fix. You know, I went through a whole series of options for eating. And then I thought, okay, I'm doing good. It's like, wait, you know, stop, you know, go for a walk, you know, get a glass of water or get something. And I proudly told Mike the story that I had worked all the way down to a good option. And that bought me, you know, I didn't sit down and send that email. And Mike said, but, you know, you were supposed to be sitting with the discomfort. It was only then that I realized how quickly I went from I'm uncomfortable to I'm getting out of being uncomfortable. Right. And I thought the winning moment there was that I found a good option instead of you know, an eating, but just how quickly I went to, I need to get out of this.
Yeah.
And at what a low level. Again, this wasn't a big event. This was an email. So then I started thinking about how many times during the course of the day am I feeling these lower level discomforts and working to get out of them immediately. So that was kind of my story.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. And yeah, so she's telling on me and my really poor coaching where I'm just telling her, wait a minute. And in reality, if you have these moments and instead of grabbing the butterscotch cookies or whatever, and you go for a walk, that's actually pretty awesome. But we were in the thick of it, of the actual experience of sitting through that discomfort, right? And so, you know, again, this is just my opinion, but I think if you actually go through the pain of sitting through that discomfort, I'm sorry, I keep getting these messages that the internet's messed up. If you go through the pain of sitting through the discomfort, you are going to grow through that pain significantly greater, right? So it's great that she went for a walk. It's great that she grabs a glass of water versus the other choices. So please don't hear that's a bad thing necessarily, but in the conversation about sitting in the discomfort, you're getting a bigger bang out of your buck by experiencing that pain. Again, this is not about being sadistic. So, but to both Lisa and Lisa, I really, really appreciate you just sharing your story and sharing the examples. I think there's a lot of power in that. And you both, it was just one was at 7 o'clock and one was 8 o'clock, and you were saying the exact same thing as I was also experiencing, like I shared at the beginning of this call too. So I think that really resonated with me, but I appreciate you just sharing and helping and supporting other folks that are watching or on the call as well. So that's pretty much the topic at hand for the day. And I would just like to get thoughts, feedbacks, questions, comments, concerns that anybody has on the call.
Well, thanks to both Lisas for sharing. That was nice and helpful.
Definitely.
And relatable, certainly.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm sort of looking at myself here, but whenever I'm getting ready to do a chore, a job or whatever, even at work, first thing I do is put gum in my mouth because it helps me to get set to handle whatever is coming. It's not that I'm uncomfortable at the time, unless it might be a little bit of, I don't think I'd call it anxiety, but just revving up the adrenaline to get ready, you know, for whatever comes in our recovery unit. And but I'm like that. When gum helps me to concentrate, but is that a different thing, or is that something only I can answer, I guess?
I think potentially the gum, unless it's something that's going to be, you know, bad for you per se, the gum is kind of a crutch to help you transition into that time frame for yourself. But it's the same, in my thought, it's the same kind of concept is you're putting yourself in a different emotional state so you can enter into that activity at work and you're in a better place, and the gum helps you transition that way. So it's not dissimilar with the topic that we're talking about, right?
Okay.
I don't think you're in a place of misery necessarily, but there is definitely something you want to change inside. So you're using the gum to do that. That's kind of what I see. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts about that.
That doesn't feel like that would cause harm.
Yeah.
I mean,
depending on
whereas,
the kind of gum it is. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, it's good gum. It's, yeah.
Well, I mean,
I would
It's
say
sugarless.
the chewing, the eating something is definitely self-soothing. So I'm putting something in my mouth because that's going to comfort me. And again, this activity and Mike talked about, it was good coaching because it was that whole awareness of, I'm doing this, how often it's happening at lower levels, and how often I'm squirming to get myself out of it uncomfortable. And you defined pain in many ways at the beginning of this talk, and it's not just like physical pain. It's so yeah, that was, I mean, for me, I mean, chewing gum might mean something different for you. For me, it's definitely eating, or you know, it was buying me time, but it was also soothing. It was also
It helps me focus.
there you go.
kind of like one of those rituals that sometimes people will go through for whatever activity they've got to do, you know, whether it be a super athlete or whatever. Sometimes people go through these little teeny rituals that kind of is their transition or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wonder, Mike, sometimes when you talk about the, you know, the sitting with the discomfort, and it was 90 seconds, if it's a little bit like PTSD, you learn that you can get through this, you can sit with this and you'll come out okay. You'll be okay. You don't have to get yourself you don't have to remove yourself. You find you'll come out on the other end okay. And I'm wondering, that's what I was thinking.
I think it buys some time to hopefully in some form or fashion be a physiological or psychological changing in the brain or what have you. And then 90 seconds later, you know, you're in a better place again, just like Gail, who gave it the 90-second rule. She felt a little bit better. She didn't feel like, oh my God, this is great all of a sudden, that this is not, you know, this is reality. She just felt a little bit better. She felt better enough to put her shoes on and start working out versus where she was when she started that process. For me, when this is just like going off in my brain constantly now, because I'm a little bit more hyper aware because I've been thinking about this so much. So throughout the day, there's hundreds of times that I want to do X. And I realized, you know what, that's not what my butt should be doing. I should be sitting in my chair and doing this work or whatever it is, right? And I'm like, oh my God, here I go again. And sometimes I still do it. Sometimes I'll go for a walk when I know I should probably be sitting in the chair, or I'll go and I'll get on Facebook and go through feeds on Facebook. I mean, we all do that stuff, but I'm a lot more consciously aware of it now. And as I think a lot of you know, Grace Ann went to Miami. She was gone for 4 or 5 days. So I had a lot of time to do a lot of distracting things. And I really set my intention to say, you know what, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And it was a incredibly successful weekend in that process. Now, there was a lot of breakthroughs that were happening, et cetera, but I'm just so much more aware. And I think both Lisa and Lisa shared this, of what's going on in our brain as we're going through these moments of, oh, wait a minute, no, I kind of want to do this, or I don't want to do that. And in reality, it helps us to be more consciously aware and then pause, like somebody said earlier, and then make hopefully a better choice. If not, again, this isn't about perfection, but we're looking for growth and we're looking for progress, right? That's the ultimate goal here. The goal is not perfection.
Well, and some of that is what you're talking about too, sounds like the book Positive Intelligence, where the little saboteurs are popping in. And that's where you go into that 90-second right brain thinking and you challenge those saboteurs or whatever.
Absolutely. Yep. All right. Any final comments before we close it out?
Thank you as always.
Yes,
thank you guys so much. Thanks for your participation. I love any feedback you guys have for me. Constructive feedback is great. Believe you me, I don't want to confuse anybody by this. I was sharing with my wife last night. I put this thing together and I'm afraid I'm going to confuse people. And so I read it to her and she said, that's actually, and she said what Lisa just said, you really make clear what pain is because it can be confusing. What is this discomfort thing you're talking about? What do you mean by pain? And that's where she really, when I've been explaining this to her for the last several weeks, when I showed her the presentation, she said that was helpful just to kind of know what that is. So, but very much appreciate everybody's participation. Again, online, if this is something that resonates with you, feel free to subscribe. Feel free to like the video, etc. And we will close it out for now. Okay, guys. Thanks so much for joining. I
Okay.
appreciate it.
Everybody
Mike.
have a good
Take care.
night.
God bless, guys.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye-bye.